careful.
Liminal Spaces on
clip out
Reddit,
of reality in the wrong areas.
which had some
You'll end
banger
up in
photos
back
on there.
rooms
Hold
where
on.
it's nothing.
Before we get in the video, let's look at some liminal photos. Liminal space. Let's go. Best. Top. Let's go all time. Never go to the top one first. Come through right here. Bang, it's the one. It's alright. It's cool. Inside of a Chinese food. Oh, a juice box. That looks great. That's great. This is banging. That's, yeah. Alright. Like, I don't know too much. Like, liminal space, I understand what the prompt, you know what I mean? It's literally up here. A liminal space is the time between. Alright, hold on. Let me get back to where we were. A liminal space is the time between the what was and the next is. And the next. It is a place of transition, waiting and not knowing. Liminal space is where all transformation takes place if we learn to wait and let it form us. See, I'm just here because I like to suck. I like. Whoa, pause. That sounded crazy. I like to see some weird photos. This episode scared the fuck out of me back then. Like, this is cool. This is banging. 2 months ago? Damn, where was this at? This is fire. This is fire. This is fire. That's banging. That's spooky. That's a good art piece. That's fire. That's crazy. What the fuck is this? A quick call. Is this a fucking phone booth? Do they even still have these? This has to be a foreign country. Alright, I don't know where they're from. Whoa. Decade that never ended. Damn. This is fucking outstanding. Damn. See, I like a lot of these photos. This you guys some memories in here. And here. And here. This give me, man, you could always reminisce on certain shit. This give me like vibes of like 4th grade when they'd send you on the hallway and you'd have to do those groups. I don't know if they did that for you guys. I don't remember what the fuck the groups were. No, it was like about school and shit. And I didn't even know, I wasn't dumb. It wasn't doing no extra work. Like, it wasn't like a class to help me. It was just, I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was, honestly.
But the stink
but it was
of
a
old
vibe.
moist carpet,
The stink of old moist carpet,
of mono yellow, the endless background noise of fluorescent lights and maximum hum buzz, and approximately 600 million square miles of randomly segmented empty rooms to be trapped in. God save you if you hear something wandering around nearby, because it sure as hell heard you. This was the original post on 4chan that would spark a horror phenomenon. Hundreds of short films, millions of views, and soon to be an A24 movie. The Backrooms at the time was
oh yeah, I need to see that shit. I saw that
the
ad for that
was
shit.
Very simple. Nowadays,
never
the
deep
Backrooms
into,
is
like,
split into two very different communities. The first is the fan base that developed on this simple premise to an almost absurd degree, creating hundreds of floors, entities, something reminiscent of the SCP Foundation, straying pretty heavily from the original post. And the other side is the purists, the ones who are terrified of the unknown and the simplicity, the ones who let their imagination run a little wild. And therein lies a problem. I've been looking at the conversations around the Backrooms movie, and some people are very split on their opinions. Half are saying they want something more closely resembling an SCP type film, and half are wishing it was something more atmospheric and simple like the original post. Ultimately, I think it's going to be something between the two, and I'm excited to see what comes from it. But I'm not here to discuss that movie. The problem is that one side of these two extreme points will most likely be disappointed no matter what. So that's why I'm here. I already talked about one liminal horror film, Messiah of Evil, a traditional, if not wacky, type of horror film filled with action, horror, and of course, liminal spaces. But I wanted to give the other side of the fan base a shot and find something that much more closely resembled the original post. Something simple, eerie, and atmospheric. Something that gives you that fear of the unknown. Something liminal. And that's what I want to talk about today. I'm Nightmare Movies, and today, it's time to check into your...
Ooh, okay. I like that transition.
It's 2004, and welcome to the Austrian Alps. This is Irene, our new receptionist, and we're going to follow her on her tour of this lovely hotel. Enjoy your stay.
I have a feeling the hotel ain't so lovely.
The tour starts in the basement where her first duty lies, making sure that the door stays locked. As our tour guide says, the devil never sleeps. Another important note is this button, an alarm Irene can press in case of emergencies, and the caretaker will come. And with that, the tour is over. So Irene sits and waits, and then she notices something. This staircase. I wonder where it leads. Back downstairs, Irene continues the tour with Petra, and the next stop is... This is the Lady of the Woods, and a picture of her cave.
That's the haunted dog, bro. I'm telling you, that's where it ends.
There's something more important to discuss. The reasoning for Irene's hiring. That being that the
she's gonna come back and see that motherfucker straight out the box.
Named Eva seemed to have just left one day without a trace. And this is where I want to say something quickly. Already, this is a very confusing and quiet horror film. There's no introduction to the hotel itself. We just start trapped in the elevator with Irene. And because of that, we don't really get a sense of where we are exactly. The hotel itself is clean and quiet, but we only get small snapshots of locations. The basement, the pool, the dorms for workers. Even though I understand that this is all one location, it feels like every part of it is split, almost on purpose, just to disorient me. And everyone that works here acts in this, how can I say this, blunt way. They don't sugarcoat anything, but at the same time, it feels like they aren't saying everything. And this lifelessness or this stiffness is something that's reflected even in the camera work. Locked off shots are all we see. Well, for now, because after exploring her room, Irene finds a pair of glasses. She puts them on and...
Oh, shit.
The alarm is going off, and someone is exploring these empty halls, floating through them, just out of sight. They make their way up the stairs. We don't get a good look at who it is. And beyond the stairs is a hallway leading into a void. Wait, is that Irene? Oh, just a dream. Well, a nightmare, really. And oh, how I wish that this was the end of it. But the next morning, as Irene is doing her job, these two gentlemen catch her attention. But she can't really hear what they're saying. She just barely catches the end of a sentence. Something about questioning the staff, and then they're brought into an office. I wonder what that's about. Well, back to work. Or
oh, it was about the fucking previous worker that got killed. Bro.
Irene is getting some exercise in, swimming, all by herself, late at night. But then...
Oh, no.
Oh, back to her room again, I guess. And then to the caretaker's room, where Irene hears her praying. And then to the front desk, where Irene is all alone. And this is the point where that liminal horror really starts to show its
Anybody
face.
Could walk up in there while you're sitting there
it was
alone
subtle,
at night.
The confusing editing and the even more confusing layout of the hotel. But now, there's nothing but dimly lit rooms and a pitch black basement, leading to this. A forest that fades quickly into black, and it's almost completely silent. We just sit here, wondering what could be out there. Do you want to know? Let's go take a look, shall we? Irene and Petra follow a trail deep into the woods, again never giving us any real geography to grab onto. But it leads to a new location, one we never see the exterior of. A club or a bar, it's never really specified. But what is clear is that Irene has found someone that catches her eye. And the next morning, it seems that Petra did too. Well, I assume, because we never see who she met. But she does tell Irene about it, asking her if she can borrow Irene's necklace for a date. But this isn't just a necklace, Irene says. It's a lucky charm.
Oh, fuck.
Irene is out on a date with that boy she met. And where would you want to go? How about to the Lady of the Woods cave, where you can learn all about the wonderful things that happened there. Like how a woman was burned at the stake in 1591, or how a group of hikers were exploring around the cave in 1962 and went missing. Truly, this is the perfect place for a date. And they aren't the only ones who think so, as carved into a tree are the names of couples who have been there before, including a couple whose names are Dragon and Eva. There's something odd going on, and the issue is that I can't tell what it is.
That look is like demonic. What's he doing? Why is he feeling like that?
Something that I assume Irene can see, but none of us can. But it's not just this sense of something going on. There's definitely something happening.
What's that right there? I ain't never seen that. Is that Wonka bar? Never had a
And
Wonka
speaking
Mama.
of out of frame, while Irene goes swimming, someone else is roaming the
fuck
halls
was
of this
that?
hotel, and they've taken something
It
of
looked like there was,
hers,
like,
her
fucking
lucky
wires
charm.
all over the
For what
trees.
purpose, though?
Don't look like
Well, I think
branches.
they just want to see what happens. So Irene is being watched. That much is apparent at this point. But by who? It's never clear, but at the same time, it's very apparent. I know that's contradictory, but it feels like people are always watching her, talking about her, communicating in a way that she doesn't understand, or sometimes in ways we can only interpret. Like when this man bluntly says, "We're going to stuff that duck too." And even when she is alone, there's always this presence there with her, staring out of our view, but not out of Irene's. She's always staring directly at something. But what is it? Well, I don't have an answer for a lot of things that happen. Like how once she brings it up to her superiors that her necklace was stolen, it was suddenly and miraculously found in the woods and returned to Irene. But that suffocating feeling never loosens its grip, even when these minor problems are solved. Like here, for instance, she's back at the club with her boyfriend when suddenly she gets almost completely surrounded by strange men.
Oh, no.
They don't do anything to harm her physically. They only invade her space. But it's uncomfortable. They dance in front of her, following her as she moves, and even after this, in her own dreams, she can't escape this feeling of being followed, following herself up those same stairs, down that endless hallway, into the woods. Then, when she finally wakes up,
Oh, what the
this
fuck?
is the final straw for Irene. She needs to leave, which is exactly what she tries to do. Switch shifts with Petra and leave for a few days. But you see, that's going to come with a price. The necklace, her lucky charm. And Irene, simply wanting to leave, makes the deal, handing over her
Now
charm
the doll's
to
getting
Petra.
at her,
And
for
on
sure.
her last night here, we are back to those same liminal spaces we've grown accustomed to. The empty lobby, the endless forest, calling to her. She slowly enters in, disappearing, and all we hear is this.
Scream.
And that is Hotel.
Bro,
I'm going to be frank with all of you. The first time I watched this film, I had a mixed reaction. There's so many uncomfortable and eerie shots in this film, but
So
the
we can
problem
assume
is
that that's
I couldn't
not
find
the
anything
same,
else to
but
grasp
similar to what happened
onto.
in
The
the
story
last
moves
girl.
incredibly slowly, which for some sections works brilliantly, and for others makes it feel like this movie will never end. The film is only 72 minutes, so it's not a long watch, but I just couldn't focus, and I'm not the only one who feels this way. I don't think I've ever seen reviews on a movie so split before, between high praise and unashamed hatred. And to be honest, I was leaning on the more negative side. But then I went to bed and I started to think about it. There was something I wasn't getting with this. So I sat down and gave it another chance. And what I found was a feeling not too dissimilar to what I felt when I first read about the backrooms. So what's really going on here? I'm going to start off by saying this. This is not a film for everyone. It wasn't even a film for me at first. I get the perspective of being absolutely bored to tears by this film, but as someone who felt
think that's
that
most
way, let me
films
at
at
least
certain
try and
points, though.
convince
You
you
gotta-
of a different perspective.
you gotta sit
Firstly,
through it,
this
though, in
movie
order to
is
get
confusing.
what you need
in
out of it. And then
every
if you
way,
end up
and
really
it's meant
liking
to
the
be.
film,
the
it'd
director
usually be
even
on the
admits
second
to
watch.
that in the director's commentary for the
Or
film,
it's sometimes
saying how the
it's
film
ass,
is,
but
quote,
don't worry.
less about facts. And she goes
You
on to
always look on
talk
the bright
about
side.
creating a specific atmosphere, and boy does she. The reason I decided to talk about this movie along with the original Backrooms post is because I think they share a ton of commonalities. Firstly, in the presentation, they both present a familiar space that is somehow slightly alien. In the post, it's easy to see. The original poster talks about how there are 6 million square miles of empty rooms. And when you pay close attention to Hotel, you'll see that the horror is very subtle because things are just kind of off. For instance, there's all these curtains spread around the hotel, and they aren't just for windows. They're used for separating rooms, obscuring them for no real reason other than, I guess, to hide what's inside. We only get pieces, but the actual layout of the hotel is bizarre. There's a basement and a reception area, offices and dorms. And then there's the pool and the void hallway. And none of these areas seem to connect in
Maybe
any
the budget was
real
low,
way.
dog. I don't
Throughout
know.
the film, we just teleport around this environment, never fully grounding us there. And then there's the all too creepy forest, with only the first few rows of trees illuminated before it falls off into darkness. And it's easy to see why so many people call this the most liminal movie out there. Pick just about any interior frame of the hotel, and it fits the definition perfectly. But then there's the horror aspect, and this is where it ties into the Backrooms post even more than I originally thought. The original post states, "God save you if you hear something wandering around nearby, because it sure as hell has heard you." And this quote perfectly describes the multiple ambiguous horrors of hotel, because there are multiple ways to interpret the horrors of what is happening. Like I said, this movie is extremely subtle, maybe even to its detriment, but let me explain some of the horrors I was able to find. The most obvious one is the witch, the one that we never see, only hinted at with this creepy doll, the cave, and the unnerving story about hikers going missing. And of course you naturally tie that into the disappearance of Eva, and the scary part is that maybe the hotel and the whole town are in on it, trying to offer Irene up as penance for burning her alive.
I didn't even think of that shit. They're sacrificing to the witch.
The devil never sleeps, remember? So she is always watching.
What if they knew the necklace was too good? It was too
lucky charm
the witch couldn't fuck with the, you know what I'm saying? And then the people were like, hey, I gotta get that off you.
There was a very real investigation.
That makes a lot of sense. Hey, I'm fucking with this right here. I need to watch this movie. This
thing. The area, presumably trying to find Eva. They aren't looking for a witch. If you remember in the woods on her first date, Irene sees Eva's name carved into a tree, along with another name, Dragon. There's also a couple lines sprinkled throughout that hint towards something less supernatural going on. Like when she's told outright, "We're going to stuff that duck too." Or in a moment I didn't mention when a guest asks about his quote-unquote order to Petra, and they both look at Irene. This is just my guess here because, again, everything is up for interpretation, but I'm assuming that this hotel is running some sort of trafficking ring, abducting women and doing God knows what. Even if it's not that, even if it is that people are simply murdering the new hires, it's still so uncomfortable because you don't know who's involved, or even worse, if everyone is in on it. Everyone who works here treats Irene in the same strange way. They stare at her, are almost always rude, and they look like they're whispering to each other about her. And this, combined with everything else, is what makes this probably the best liminal horror out there, at least by the Backrooms original post's definition. Like I said many times, this movie is slow, and definitely not your traditional horror film. There's no jump scares, no horror music, no entities, nothing. And I don't blame you if that's not your cup of tea, because the first time around it definitely wasn't mine. Horror is the most subjective genre out there. But that being said, I think this is the perfect film for that half of the audience I was talking about earlier. The one that is scared by something more intangible. The thing in the woods, the whispers from strangers, the empty halls where all you hear is your own footsteps. And while you're alone, you're still sure that something is there with you. If you're not careful, you'll end up in the Austrian Alps, in a hotel, where it's nothing but the stink of chlorine from the pool, the madness of
with the audio. He's bringing it down a little bit. I think he's gonna jump scare me.
Segmented empty rooms to be trapped in. God save you if you hear something wandering around nearby, because it sure as hell has heard you. See? And with all that being said, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video.
That was banging. I'm already subbed, bro. I already know it. There you go. That was fire. That was great, man. That was a great video. That movie. Hey, shout out Luno Space.